I would like to warmly welcome you to this virtual global conference on biodiversity finance. It is being organized online in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic is one of the greatest challenges that the world has faced since the Second World War. The COVID-19 pandemic is much more than a health crisis. It has the potential to create devastating social, economic, environmental, and political crises at the global country and community level that will leave deep scars, including on our own world. This crisis may detract government's attention temporarily away from environmental issues, including our nature and climate crises. At the same time, the COVID-19 crisis has shown the value that the international community brings to the global response to crises that know no borders, that require action beyond national interests, such as our efforts to protect biodiversity. That includes partnerships like the one between UNDP and the OECD to support countries to ensure that adequate financial resources are channeled in the right direction to safeguard biodiversity ecosystem services and our natural world, in ways that also advance the 2030 agenda. The partnership is really about unlocking the massive finance opportunities out there. For instance, look at the recent analysis by the Food and Land Coalition, which shows that changes to the way we farm and feed ourselves can unlock up to 4.5 trillion in new business opportunities each year by the year 2030. At the same time, those changes could save us 5.7 trillion a year in damage to both people and planet. And there are many innovative financing efforts that are spurring positive change. For instance, South Africa has established tax deductions for the creation and management of new protected areas. And the Seychelles has also established financial incentives to support the tourism sector to transition to a fully sustainable model. Indeed, it has established the first ever biodiversity finance unit in the world. But it is data from 30 countries implementing biofin that has shown that the level of conservation efforts needed cannot be accomplished with the current levels of finance, and is simply not about creating new financing mechanisms. It is about eliminating and repurposing negative financing. It is also about increasing the efficiency of existing financing. Indeed, biodiversity finance involves over 150 different mechanisms as described in the Biofin catalog. Public budgets, subsidies, fees, fines, tax breaks, debt swaps, green bonds, fintech, and lotteries are all examples of how countries can reduce the gaps in their biodiversity finance. We need to connect all of these finance mechanisms within national finance plans embedded within the broader framework of SDG financing. However, many global events scheduled during this super year for nature to shape the post-2020 global biodiversity framework are now being postponed. We need to use this additional time to put in place the most optimal global biodiversity framework for the coming decade that revolves around finance. We also need to ensure that the post-COVID-19 economic and social recovery efforts are oriented towards green stimuli that accelerate biodiversity conservation. Without redirecting financing flows from nature negative to nature positive investments, nature will continue to be destroyed and biodiversity loss will continue, with devastating consequences for our communities, societies, and economies. So finance can no longer be an afterthought or simply perceived as a cross-cutting issue. Finance has to be at the very foundation of the new global biodiversity framework. You are playing a vital role in making this a reality, and I would like to thank you for your continued efforts in this crucial area.